Fellas, we got a good old squabble on our hands.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. They squabbling out here now.
The Heat made it a 1-1 series last night, beating the Nuggets 108-111. They're not going away. I think we all but one picked 7 games. And I think
I picked Nugs in 6. I thought me and Pump said Nugs in 6.
maybe
You
it was
went
just me.
7.
But
You did go 7.
We picked a lot of people picked them sweeping the Heat. I don't see that happen. This is gonna be a deep series, man. The Heat are 27-14 at home. The Nugs have to go back to Miami tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
They're 19-22 on the road.
Huh. Did not know that.
Take that for what you will. How do you see that shaking up? Because I don't see the Heat backing down. At times during the series so far, the Nuggets they'll get up on the Heat and have like a 15-point lead. Then it just turns to 6. They'll get back up. It'll be a 10-point lead. And you just know that the Heat are just going to keep coming.
Grow up, man. Grow up.
No, in all honesty, there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that I saw in that game because it felt like me and 12 were watching it, and up until that fourth quarter, it seemed like the Heat just couldn't get over that hump. Right? Like they get down by 15. Okay, cool. They make a run. Now they're down 7, and all of a sudden we turn back around. Oh man, it's a 1-point game. Take another bite. They're back down by 9 or 10, and it wasn't until that fourth quarter where they just did something different. And I know we're gonna get some deeper analysis from Breeze because he can dissect that stuff like crazy. But it's like, man, they're not gonna be able to get past what the Nuggets do best. And I think coming into this series, I think that almost every series we've known that Eric Spoelstra is always going to be the difference maker in a lot of series. And I think we were waiting for that to happen. And it seemed like he was just biding his time the whole game. It's like, all right, cool. Clearly we can make runs and keep the game competitive and keep it close. And then I'll pull my ace out the hole come the fourth quarter. It seemed like that's what happened in that game.
And Eric Spoelstra, he's going to play with the lineup. Like I mentioned before the series, we saw Kevin Love. He had an early impact on the last game. His outlet passes are all-time great. I would say that as far as outlet passes. He made a huge impact in stretching the floor and getting another big body on the Joker and making him work on the offensive end. Bam, he's finally showed up, and I think it's the right time to show up. So the Heat, man, they got that. A lot of players said it after the game. They got that I don't give a damn factor. And even though the Nuggets, they've controlled most of the series, all they need is that window to take over. And I don't think the Nuggets, they can't have a lackluster game in Game 3, or they might be in trouble.
To your point, is it still 2-3-2 the way the finals are? Or they go?
No, I think it's 2-2, 1-1-1.
Okay.
Pretty sure they got rid of the
2-3-2?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, man, I got a couple ways I want to go with this. I had a pretty good conversation with my man's Alex North. Shout out to my man Alex. He gets really into the stats. He'll go back and really watch games. He's learning how to shorthand keep track of play-by-play.
Nerd.
Yeah, but it's actually super dope. It's nerdy, but it's actually really dope. We've had conversations. So I get into some really deep statistical conversations with Alex. You can't not. Gotta bring him on the show. But anyway, one of the things that he brought out to me was the difference between the teams creating wide open threes. So one of the things that Miami's doing is they're creating in game 1, I think they created I think he said twice as many wide open threes than Denver did, and they just missed them. Yeah. It was a legitimate number of wide open threes that they just missed. And if they had made a certain percentage of them, they win that game. Right? As opposed to Denver, they aren't creating nearly as many wide open shots, which says to me that Miami's getting the looks they want to get. Right? Miami is creating offense. Guys are being put in position to get open shots. And that's exactly what you want. So offensively, the Heat are getting the looks they want to get. And if they're going to hit them, I don't know what Denver does to stop it, right? Because let's be honest, Denver's not a good defensive team.
Well, Mike Malone called out their defense, though. That it was a lackluster effort on the defensive end, and Denver has been the number one defense in the playoffs. Miami is second, but I think with more effort, those offensive possession where you have wide open shots won't be there.
Here's my question, though. Name another. Who is the next best 3-point shooting team that Denver's faced in the playoffs? Lakers are bottom half of the league. Bottom 5 total season. I guess that includes when Russ was on the team.
I don't know what the Suns were. Suns and KD are pretty good 3-point shooters.
I mean, Book doesn't shoot a ton of threes. He'll take them, but he's not shooting a ton of threes. And I had this conversation late in that series. D Book and Kevin Durant had to do so much. They were just worn out at the end of the series. And as a team, Phoenix is not a great 3-point shooting team.
So the Heat.
So the Heat are the best 3-point shooting team they face. And the Heat are getting a lot of wide open threes. So is Denver a good defensive team? Or have they had the opportunity to play against teams that can't challenge them in the way that they need to be challenged most? I don't know. Statistically, nobody's allowing a 3-point shooting team, to get, I think it was like in the first 2 games, they've had like 40 open 3-pointers. That's what Miami wants to do. So there's no way a good defensive team is allowing a team who wants to shoot threes to get that many wide open threes.
I think game 3 will be telling, though. Like, this is the adjustment game. You had the feel out game for both teams. I think game 3 is real pivotal.
Maybe, but also this is who Miami has been, right? Max Strus is shooting threes. Duncan Robinson shoots threes. Caleb Martin has been shooting threes. Everybody except Jimmy and Bam shooting threes. In the first 2 games, Miami has got a ton of wide open threes. To me, that says Spo is out coaching Mike Malone, to no surprise of mine, because I think Spo is arguably making an argument to be a top 5 coach all time with this recent run he's on.
Agreed.
And I think he's solidified top 10. He's making an argument for top 5. So I think he's out coaching Mike Malone. It's not surprising. He's getting guys in positions they want to be in. And if they just hit the looks they're getting, they'll win. The number Alex threw, he was like, he's like a normal shooting performers, they would have hit 4 more threes than they did in game 1. They ended up winning that game by 1 point then. That says that they just couldn't hit the looks they were getting. And if they hit them, Denver's in trouble.
That's what I was going to ask. So based on you telling me that, do you think Denver's in trouble? Because there's also another crazy stat that I want to throw out there. Since Jimmy's been with the Heat, he's been there for 4 seasons now. The Heat have the most playoff wins in the league since Jimmy's been there. Like, that's crazy.
Okay.
So do you think the Nuggets are in trouble if they don't win this game?
I
don't think so.
I don't think they're in trouble, no. The Nuggets are a really good team. I think as a team, I think the Nuggets are the best team in the league right now. They were the number 1 seed for a reason. Joker is a monster. I think Denver is a really good team. I think this could be one of those weird, like, the matchup is a weird thing for Denver, right? Like, defensively, matching up with the Heat isn't panning out in their favor, right? Like, the Heat are much smaller than Denver,
right,
than Denver is. And Denver is somewhat taking advantage of it offensively, but then defensively, the smaller lineup is probably what's creating more wide open threes. And I have the number in front of me. In game 1 or game 2, in game 1, Miami had 16 wide open threes. Denver had 9. It's almost double the amount of, and this is statistically Miami wide open 3-point attempts. They just only hit 5 out of the 16. Denver had 9, and they hit 3. So the percentages were the same, but they created twice as many wide open threes by NBA statistical standards. I think it could be a weird matchup fit for Denver, where they're used to, like they did LA, force LA to go bigger. We tried to start Dennis Schroeder. He's not going to hurt you from the 3. So then he's just a liability, and they're killing him on the other side of the floor. As opposed to Miami, they're not getting killed on the other side of the floor, but them being smaller, they're spreading the floor, and they're creating really good open looks. I think it's just a weird matchup for Denver.
I feel like this is something that I don't think, was it recently, like last week or something, where I think Steve Kerr was actually talking about how Denver plays basketball. And that's cool. Like, they're getting all these shots, and I'm kind of going back to the Eastern Conference Finals where, Miami has been living and dying with guys who are, undrafted.
That's the narrative.
And it's almost like they're the Patriots of the NBA. This whole idea about Heat culture that we've been hearing the past couple of months now, right?
No, that's been for a few years.
No, I mean, like,
it's a thing.
It's a thing, but I'm talking about, well, now that they're in the finals, you're hearing it more because they're relevant and they're here. That's what I mean. So you're living and dying off of guys like, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin's been doing ungodly things, right? But it's not like they've been hitting these open threes like you're talking about consistency. It seems like Max Strus is there, and then he's not there. Right. Duncan's there, and then he's not there. We have no Tyler Hero. Lowry can hit the three every couple times, whatever. And if that's what you're living and dying on, to me, something I think Steve Kerr said, and I'll find the exact quote, where, when their high pick and roll is not working, Denver's not a team that's living and dying by three. Mm-hmm. If Denver's outside shot isn't working, they know how to cut and get to the basket. Mm. They're going to figure out how to get the best shot all the time.
Joker going to find you.
And Joker's going to find you. So at that point, if, we're getting all these open threes, we're like, our three ain't landing right now. Michael Porter isn't getting off that pick and roll. He can't hit that three, or KCP isn't hitting. Well, now KCP and Porter Jr. are going to start cutting to the basket, and Joker's going to find them. So they know how to work that inside-out game to me so well where, again, when you start breaking down what they did in the fourth quarter to them, if that's what they're going to do, I don't know they can do that consistently throughout an entire 4 quarters to Denver. So that's why I feel like even if Denver is still not making these open three-point shots or not getting a lot of them, they know how to score in other ways. I don't know if Miami has what it takes to consistently do what they did and get those open shots and make those open shots all the time.
Well, real quick, so pre-finals, they shot 45% on open threes. That's a really high clip. And if they're going to be able to create them, that's just how many season before the finals.
And how many open threes you say they're getting?
Well, in game 1, they had 16.
Okay.
And in game 2, I don't have the number right in front of me, but in game 2, they had a large number of them. And on the season before the final, they shot 45% on open threes. So, yeah, I mean, Caleb Martin is not going to be anybody's star player, but, this team is a number of guys that are respectable three-point shooters. If they're open, they're more likely to hit than not.
But is that the only way that they could beat a team? Because if they're not hitting threes, it's not pass the ball to Jimmy and get out the way. I don't think you could do that with this Nuggets team where Pump is alluding to, like, Denver has different ways to beat you. And I think it's if the Heat aren't hitting threes, how else can they beat this Denver Nugget team? Because if we look at both games so far, they've been in control each game all of 6 minutes, and that's when the Heat took over game 2 and won. So
that's actually both of those kind of touch my other 2 points about why, and I'm not backing off my Denver pick. I still think Denver will win the series, but if I'm looking at this and I'm looking for reasons to be concerned if you're a Denver fan, well, the other thing has been Bam, because if you're creating open threes, that forces the other team to open up, right? And what opens up? Well, the middle. And now you're putting the Joker in a pick and roll, and if Bam's going to hit that little 15-footer, he went for 21 in the first game. And then he went for, 30 in the first game?
I'll still take my chances on Bam because I haven't seen it consistently through the whole playoffs. So I'll take, if that's the shot, if Bam is going to beat me, that's fine.
But so far, he's beating you. So far, he's shooting a really high clip, right? In his last game, he went 8 of 14 with 21 points. So if you're going to live with it, then fine. If you're like, hey, we're going to, but then you have to take something away. They can't get wide open threes and Bam is getting the floaters in the lane. You got to take something away from them, and I haven't seen Denver do it yet. I think game 1 they won because Miami just couldn't hit open shots. Game 2 Miami hit and Denver lost. And the last point I want to make, and I texted to you guys, and I don't know if you got a chance to look at it and come back to me. Denver hasn't won a playoff game when Joker scores 40 points or more, and they let him go in the last game. Joker goes for 41, and they lose. But here's the key: Joker goes for 41. The next highest score, 18. Jamal Murray. So, and I think this is one of the things that we talked about when we previewed this series. Do you let Joker just hit him with the Jordan rule like Jordan said? I mean, like Pump said, hey, you know what, Joker? You want to go for 45? Go get it. Nobody else will score 20 or more. Can they win with Joker doing that and nobody else going for 20 or more?
I think they can, though, because Murray's averaged 27 points in the series. He had a bad game, but he's averaged 27, 5, and 6. KCP is shooting 46% from the field.
In this series?
Throughout the playoffs. Michael Porter shooting 43%. So those guys aren't going to keep missing. So you could let the Joker score, but the other guys are going to hit their shots too because they're more consistent shooting the ball.
Do those guys normally get their looks when Joker's being the distributor as opposed to Joker being the scorer? Because statistically, it says if Joker's focused on scoring, he puts up 40, they don't win. And I'm assuming those other guys, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, when Joker puts up 40, what does Jamal Murray average in those games? Because you could say to the Jordan rule, hey, we're going to play Joker straight up man on. Bam, you're on your own. If Joker scores, he scores. But Jamal Murray, we're staying attached. And Michael Porter, we're staying attached. KCP, we're staying attached. Aaron Gordon, we're staying attached. So you actually have to work to get your own shot. We're not going to double Joker, and then now you guys get to rotate and find an open shooter. No. Michael Porter, are you hitting contested jumpers? Or are you just hitting when we double Joker and now you're open?
Yeah, I'm still gonna roll my dice on. I think I sent you guys a stat a long time ago about in games that I know he didn't have on this game, but in games where Joker does have a triple double, they win 81% of those games, right? So in this game they just lost. Well, Joker had his 41-11, but only had 4 assists, and that's not the typical game that we see where Denver wins and Jokic is being not only a scorer but also distributor. So if they're just not hitting those, or they're just playing again the way that they played in the fourth quarter, what could he do?
I don't know, but that's a good question. So the thing to watch in Game 3, well, what would be the counter to that, right? Because in that, what Miami ran in the fourth quarter, and I shared it with you guys. We'll just say it briefly on the pod. Essentially, they were running the zone. I don't know. You can call it a 2-1-2. I don't know if it was a matchup 3-2 zone. I don't know what it was. It had a lot of
moving parts.
A lot of moving pieces, but somebody was always attached to the Joker in the high post, and because it was a zone, it takes away the pick and roll. That is the bread and butter of the Denver offense. Jamal Murray, Joker pick and roll. Well, you can't pick and roll against a zone. Because, you set a pick, but then somebody else is just standing there waiting because they weren't guarding nobody.
And it seemed like it was always a smaller, quicker guy that's attached to the Joker on the high pick and roll so they could get around those screens.
But the key was also Bam gets to now hang around the rim on the block, so you can't just lob it over the top either because now Bam is just waiting to go get it. He will out-jump the Joker for that ball. So I think that'll be what is the Denver counter to that?
I was going to ask you that, being that you're our film guy. How would you counter that?
I would start Joker somewhere else, or I would put Joker on ball at the top because Joker can do that too. He can initiate the offense from the top of the key. He doesn't have to be on the nail, which means maybe you can't run the pick and roll, but you have other sets that you can roll that are zone beaters. You got to see it on film. It's a little weird, and that was kind of one of the things I mentioned before the series. Like, can Miami throw random weird things to keep Denver off balance? Seemed like they did it in the fourth quarter of game 2. Denver was kind of off balance, and they didn't really know how to consistently beat what Miami was doing. Well, now, what is the Denver counterpunch to that? Typically, against a zone, you want to have a big facilitator in the middle of the zone. Think about Duke playing against a Syracuse, right? You want to put who is our guy right now? Oh, man. Filipowski.
Yeah.
You want to put Filipowski in the middle because you can pass it over the guard up top, and then now you can have somebody in the dunker spot. Now the zone has to move. You move somebody into that spot. Now you got open shot, right? You shoot them out of the zone. So there are things you can do. This one, you can't sit your big in the middle of that zone, right? That zone is, the way they're running it, is set up to take away the big in the middle of the floor. There are some other beaters, and to me, is probably putting Joker somewhere else, not just standing him at the free throw line. But you can't go to that pick and roll against it. Yeah. You have to find a way to force them out of it.
And that's gonna be my thing to watch to me in the third quarter. I mean, in the third game, is if now Mike Malone can counter whatever chess move that Spo is gonna throw at you.
Yeah,
because he's not gonna go back. I mean, if he may go back to the well, but I'm pretty sure Spo is gonna have a counter to the counter already ready.
Yeah.
So it depends on what Mike Malone is gonna do.
I don't think you counter, because if you look at it, KCP had 6 points, Michael Porter had 5, and Murray had 18. So it's just all about hitting shots. They didn't get blown out. So don't counter just so fast because Joker was still finding those guys. They weren't hitting shots. So at that point, I got to go try to get 40.
Are they open shots or are they contested shots? You don't want KCP shooting contested shots.
But
you just don't.
And that's what we saw in that Lakers game. You saw KCP, Michael Porter Jr. Those guys were all getting open on those pick and rolls.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray come off a pick and roll, and that three is wide open for him. So the fact that, again, when you're watching those first 3 quarters, you're like, yeah, Miami's in trouble. But they kept the game close enough all the way to that fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden,
hold on, can I ask you that? Like, so I tweeted, I'm like, you be watching the game, like, man, Miami's getting railed.
I did see that.
And it's like, oh, it's a 6-point game. It's like, wait a minute, it feels like they're getting ran out of the gym, but it's an 8-point game.
Right. I think I don't know if I was saying that just now or earlier. I'm like, I look up, they're down 15. I turn around and it's a 1-point game.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Denver takes back off again. But the whole time, I felt Miami knew that they were in striking distance. To your point, Miami don't give a damn. They're like, as long as we know that we can do that, cool. Because they knew what they were going to do late in the game. If it was close, this is our set we're going to run. They can't stop what we're doing.
And maybe that's the thing. Look, we're not trying to beat you in the first 3. We're just trying to keep it close enough. And then we know what it is that we're going to do in the fourth. And then when it's winning time, we know this is going to win the game, but we're not going to do it all game because then you'll find a counter, right? Yeah. You'll find a way to beat it if I throw it at you for 4 quarters. But no, I'll sit on it to the fourth when it's a 7-point game, right. And I'll go on a run because you can't score because you're trying to figure out how to beat this random thing we just threw at you.
If I'm Denver, that's what I'm afraid of. Because right now, to me, Miami only has to be afraid of if their guys are hitting open shots and Joker just continues to just have a Joker-like game.
Yeah,
that's really the only thing that Miami has to be afraid about.
And they still haven't had Jimmy.
It's a big only thing.
No, but to me, if that's it,
yeah,
like there's a lot of things that Denver has to worry about right now because they couldn't close them out.
It's the unknowns,
and they still haven't had a Jimmy game yet.
You just don't know what Miami's going to do.
Yeah,
but we've talked about that. Like, who do you game plan for? Are you game planning for Bam? Probably not. Jimmy, maybe, but Jimmy might not even try to score like that, right?
He's chilling right now.
So it's like, who do you game plan for? That's the weird thing with this Miami
Max
team.
Strus.
You're not game planning for him and Duncan Robinson. You're just not. So that's also the tricky thing. And I don't know, man. It's very interesting to see, though.
All right, so like Cinderellas don't happen in the NBA, right? So do you think that this Heat team could be the first Cinderella story to kind of come from the back of the pack, the 8 seed, to go ahead and win it all? The closest we've seen was in '99 when the Knicks, they got swept by the Spurs, but they made it to the finals. Do you think this Heat squad could be the first Cinderella story per se in the NBA?
Can I in a weird way push back against the Cinderella? Because originally in my mind, the first team that pops up is Detroit. I always say them against the Lakers. It's just that Lakers team was a juggernaut. It wasn't that Detroit was bad. They were actually the 3rd seed, I think, in that playoffs.
Okay.
1994-95 Rockets are actually the lowest seed to win an NBA Finals. They were the 6th seed. So in that playoffs, they had to beat the 1, 2, and 3 seed. Mm-hmm. And then they go on and sweep the Magic, who I think were the 2 seed in that very young team.
Yeah.
Very good, but there's no way, like the Rockets came from 6th seed. This is their 2nd championship, right? So this was their back-to-back, I think.
4 or 5 would have been, yeah.
Yeah, right? So 6th seed comes in, knock off 1, 2, and 3 in their conference, and then goes to the finals. Sure, they beat a young team.
Mm. Nick Anderson wanted nothing to do with him free throws.
He didn't. He didn't want it. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, is it just because of the seeding that we're calling them Cinderella? Because
yes.
Yeah.
Is that it?
An 8 seed's not supposed to be in the finals.
You're not expected to go that far.
You're not supposed to be in the finals. This team
they was in the play-in.
They were 1 quarter away from not making the playoffs at all.
It's definitely a Cinderella.
But is Miami your typical 8 seed? Like this is
were they that good in a regular season?
I mean, I guess not because they were the 8 seed.
Here's the thing. I think it's similar to that Houston thing because that Houston team, okay, they have Hakeem the Dream and they got Clyde Drexler, right? And they got Kenny. Mm-hmm. Kenny Smith, the 3rd guy.
They got Ori on there. They got the team.
So they got a better team than this Heat team.
So them being a 6 seed, you could look at that and be like, okay, they're not a legit 6 seed, right? Mm-hmm. They're much better than that top level talent-wise. The Heat, I'm going to say the same thing only because the core of this team has been doing this for years.
Right.
They were in the finals just 3 years ago. So yeah, they're a Cinderella in this season, but the greater context, I'm not surprised to see the Heat go on a run. Not at all. This team knows how to win in the postseason.
All right, so before the playoffs started, were the Heat the favorite? No. Did you expect them to go this far?
The favorite, no, but still,
Were they a dark horse?
But are you shocked to see it? Like if the Minnesota Timberwolves were in the finals,
Okay.
I would be like, what?
Now
How?
that you put it like that, I get what you're saying.
And I think you
And
asked.
I did mention that since Jimmy's been there, they've won the most playoff games.
So it
in
shouldn't be
4 years,
surprising,
so-
really.
I think you asked either in the second round or maybe at the beginning of the conference finals, like what our percentages, how we rank it. And I think we all said Denver, Miami, and you were like, you got no trust in the Celtics. I'm like, no.
Oh yeah,
can beat
Miami.
them.
Yeah, Celtics didn't make your top 5 or something. Yeah.
So we're still sticking with our picks. Heat in 6. Nuggets.
You
in
got
6.
Nugs.
I got Nugs in 7.
7. I mean, for the moment, I'm gonna stay Nugs in 6. But if Game 3 goes left,
Yeah, I want to see what Game 3 does, but I'm not going to sway right now. I say Nugs either way. I just don't know if it's going to be 6 or 7.
I would love to see the Heat win. Good grief, this would be fantastic. I might take off work to go to the parade.
I wouldn't.
I would.
That would be a
'Cause
great
Heat
parade.
fans, Heat fans
fantastic.
are obnoxious.
No. Now it's just real Heat fans, and they're okay.
No, they're still
The LeBron fans are gone, so I'm cool with people.
You're
who
basing
cheer
it
for
on
Heat.
the LeBron.
No,
fandom.
they're still a little obnoxious.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
culture.
See?
Love it.
All right.
All right.
Should be exciting. Tomorrow at 8:30.
Yeah.
We'll be tuning in.
Cool.